We are going to start the workshop. There is a presentation that goes with it that I will send this presentation with all the others to Brandon so that he can share them with you. But we don't really need it like right now. So first, it's a workshop about mental preparation. So like in freediving, we are lucky in a way to tackle mental preparation quite early compared with other sports where usually you wait to be an athlete and to really get this little edge additional. But it's a mistake even for other sports. Starting early, the mental part is always great. It's also because if I ask you, for example, for you, what's the part in freediving, in terms of freediving, that is mental, and what's the part that is more like physical? There is no bad answer. It depends on people, really.
Always mental, I feel.
More mental for you?
More mental.
Yeah.
Physical for me.
More physical, like, yeah. Some people 50-50 maybe, or no? Yeah, as well. As we get better technique, we save more energy. At one point, it's not necessarily the urge to breathe or the physical part that becomes hard. That can be a little bit the mind. Now, if I ask you, which percentage of your time do you dedicate to mental training compared with physical training? So whichever the answer usually is not really up to the same ratio. So now I'm not saying you should spend like 80% of your time doing some mental exercise, but consider mental preparation like a mind gym. It's all about consistency and working regularly on it, and it really starts from 5 minutes per day to see some results. Because, you know, for example, the best example is visualization. You learn visualization in wave 1. You were told when you do a visualization, it triggers the same brain activity as the real activity. Great, it's like you have done it already. This is true for athletes or for people that are used to do mental preparation and visualizations. Like on people that have no experience in it is not true at all, is very, very different. Now you have some studies showing that if you would spend like 40 minutes per day, every day for 3 months, you would definitely get there where the cerebral activity triggered is like the same almost as the activity. I'm not saying you should do 40 minutes a day every day, but already again with 5 minutes a day, and that can be even like just regular mindful breathing, like meditation. This already, the fact of observing your breath, getting back to it, letting go of the intrusive thoughts and everything is training a little bit your mind already. So that can be as simple as 5 minutes of mindful breathing a day to start with. We are going to see other things you can do. And same, don't try to start, okay, I'm super motivated, I've been inspired by the workshop, I'm going to do 1 hour every day. Probably after 1 day or 2 already, it's going to be like, that sucks. You know, so build it progressively, just like you wouldn't start preparing a marathon by running marathon. Just slowly build the workload. Also for the mind gym, it's important if you want to gain to keep what we call adherence, to stay committed to the thing. Now, in mental preparation, the most influential parameter of performance. And when I say performance, that doesn't need to be 100-meter dive. It's performance at your own level, like really from performing, from doing well. So it's not about a certain depth. It's like if you want to improve your own performance, the most influential parameters is confidence. Like every studies show it, experience proves it as well. I can testify it's working very well. So confidence, before we start talking about confidence and how to develop it, let's give it a definition. How would you define confidence?
Trust in your skills.
Trust in your skills, but then how would you define trust? Believe in yourself, it's part of it. It's going to be a necessary conditions to be confident, but it's not going to be enough. Example, if you believe very hard you're going to fly, It's not going to happen. Like, oh, teach me if you do, you know. But if you don't believe in it, for sure, you're not going to be confident either. So there is a notion of believing. Believing in what?
Certainty.
Certainty, being sure, but being sure of what?
That you can complete what you're
That you can complete. And this is the important thing. That doesn't mean you will do it. That means you can do it. Now, and we will go back to this definition each time because it's important. So if you're sure you can do it, it's not only a belief based on just believing in yourself. Believing in yourself is part of it, but this belief has to be based on something, you know? It's not just, oh, I believe really hard. Yes?
Being aware of what you can do.
Yeah, exactly. Is knowing for sure what you can do. And then, so when you go for a dive, you should absolutely be sure you can do it. You should be confident about it. That doesn't mean you will achieve it each time you attempt it. Maybe that time you are a bit stressed because it's the first time, or you don't pay attention to your technique, so it doesn't go as well as usual. So a lot of things can happen, but the starting point should be, I'm sure I can do it. And we say it's based not just on a belief, but also on facts. Like usually, why do you put the line at 30 meters, for example? Because before you did 28, maybe a few times, it felt easy, equalization was okay. So all of this is building your confidence and giving basis to those beliefs. So what does that mean? Is that to gain confidence, and in general, and it's something I say in every single workshop, it's essential to have a log if you want to optimize a little bit your progression, to have a log and to write down what you did. And not just numbers, sometimes also a bit how you felt. And if some conditions were a bit different, and not only logging your dives, but what you do on the side as well. If you do a bit of mental preparation, if you do your stretching, if you do some dry training, some pool training, some technical training, put all of this in a log. And even though it's very romantic and very nice, and I'm the first to love writing down in a journal, I would suggest to have something a little bit more modern. Maybe it doesn't have to be crazy fancy, but Excel spreadsheet or the equivalent, something like this, so that you can make it visual, zoom out, and see some patterns. See some patterns to evaluate a bit what's blocking you, but also just gain confidence. Oh, I made a training plan, either by myself or with a coach, but the principle is I trust this training plan. So having a way to visualize that you followed the plan and that you did the job is going to be a big parameter to be confident about what you can do. Yeah? So I will share with you my personal log. You won't have all the data, but the template. And I make it quite visual also by putting in green what I did that I had planned to do and that I actually did. When I'm sick, for example, and I cannot do what I did, I put another color. When I didn't do it because I was lazy, I put another color. And you will see when you zoom out, I will leave the green, not the number, but the green. And when you zoom out on the file, you can really see some periods where, yeah, I invested way more time in mental preparation, maybe in the periods leading to a competition. And maybe I reduced the physical training in the week or 2 weeks before the competition. So all of this, yeah, having a proper log is essential for progression in general. But here in what we are talking about, like to help build your confidence, is going to be really good as well to have a log. Other myth we hear sometimes a bit about confidence, you're too confident. If we take the original definition, you cannot be too sure you're going to do something. You could be a bit delusional, you could be cocky and think, I will do it 100%. But too confident, confidence is a quality. That's why I'm saying this. It's a quality. It's a good thing. So give yourself the permission to be confident. Don't think you are bragging because you're sure you can do something. Yeah? Now make sure you base those beliefs on facts as well. And that you don't just, I'm sure just by a vague feeling, you know, but you are entitled to be confident. If you were talking to Alexei Molchanov or Alessia Zecchini and they would tell you, yeah, tomorrow I'm going to announce this because I'm sure I can do it, you wouldn't be like, he's bragging. No, but if you tell me tomorrow I'm going to do this, I'm not going to think you're bragging either. I'm going to think, okay, it's good. It's confident about the performance. And that's really good. But now you need to be really honest with yourself, you know, and putting the line a bit deeper, not being sure you can do it and just hoping for the best, or 50-50, maybe equalization will fail, maybe not. But you're setting yourself for not achieving the dive in advance in a way, you know. So when you put the line, it's because you're sure you can do it. Now, if you don't do it, don't let it shatter your confidence. Analyze why, and then go again. But you should be sure you can do it before you go. Other thing we hear about confidence sometimes is, and maybe you even say it sometimes without noticing it, I'm not confident. Like in general, like it's a trait of personality, or is confident, or I'm not confident. Yeah, maybe if you keep repeating it and believing it, at one point it can become a little bit of a trait, but originally we are not born with or without confidence, and that's why also having the log when you are doubting a little bit is a way to say, okay, rationally I did this, this, and this. I can be confident about this. So that's why the log also is important for this. But also, confidence, varies. Like a good example is right now, for example, which depths are you confident you can do?
Me.
Any, like both of you. Let's go.
I'm confident.
That you're sure you can do on a good day if everything goes well.
15.
Okay?
25.
25. Okay, now let's imagine you break a leg. You don't dive for 6 months. I put you back in the water. Are you going to be that confident that you can do 25 or 50? No. So here we take the example where confidence drops. But it's just to prove that confidence varies. And that's good news for us. That means we can work on our confidence and we can improve our confidence. So we said having a log is one of the parts, but we are going to see many other ways to improve the confidence as well. But what we need to remember is that we can always work on our confidence. And for this, it's important to, first we said, give yourself the permission to be confident. And then understanding that confidence is a cycle. And you're going to see it's quite simple, but now you're diving, you're repeating some performance, it's going well. So let's take our first example. You did 28 meters a few times comfortably. So you're going to think positive. Yeah, great. You're going to gain, in a way, some confidence. And then after this, you're going to go for the dive. So you're going to take a risk. I'm not taking a risk in terms of your own safety, more like of a gamble. Am I going to achieve the dive or not? I'm confident, I'm sure I can do it, but no, maybe not. Maybe something will go wrong. But you think positive, you take the risk. I'm not very good at writing on the side. And then, if this risk is well calculated, you experience success. And then, because you experience success, in return, you're going to think positive. Yeah? And that's going to lead you to take another risk. Now, it's a cycle. That doesn't mean you need to ride the cycle all the time. What do I mean is there are some critical parts in this cycle. One of these is here. I experienced success, I did the dive, it felt easy. Okay, I'm entitled to think positive. Now, because you did a new PB and like let's imagine you added 2 meters to your former PB, you do a new PB and it feels so easy. What's going to be the first thing that comes to mind usually is next time I add 2 more meters. And it goes perfectly, amazing, dive of my life. Then what do I do? Like usually, commonly, we would add meters. The thing is, if you keep doing this each time it feels easy, you're bound at one point to arrive to the point where it's not easy anymore. My question being, why would you do this to yourself? Maybe repeating the same new PB a couple of times, it felt amazing. Enjoy it, repeat it, have even more fun. This way, here when you think positive, the next risk you take is much smaller and you're way more likely to, and because if we could add 2 meters each time it goes well, we would all be digging at the bottom of the ocean right now to find more depths. It doesn't work like this. And yeah, like freediving is a very special sport in a way, but it's also a very common sport. Let's try not to have crazy expectation about freediving that we wouldn't have in other sports. Example, and this is going to be for this critical part, you take a risk. You don't do the dive for one reason or another. So now, either you can decide you experience failure. Yeah. And it's not again to be cheesy, like we all live in a world of rainbow and unicorns. You can also decide you experience a learning curve. You learn something out of it. Because the thing is, if you start seeing it as experiencing failure, careful, huh? You can take again a risk, but then experience failure again and get into a downward spiral this time and get the exact opposite of what you're looking for. When I say let's not have crazy expectation that you wouldn't have for another sport, 2 examples. Roger Federer, everyone knows roughly who he is, yeah? Legend of tennis, stayed first in the world for many years, won many Grand Slams. Do you know how many, in percentage, how many points he won in his whole career?
54.
Yeah, even actually 53 if you make the count a bit more accurately, but yeah. Still, that didn't stop him to achieve quite a few good things. Or let's imagine you are playing soccer or basketball, any sport. Who would expect to win every single match during the season without taking any single goal during the whole season? No one. First, it wouldn't be fun. Yeah? So why would we expect that every single dive in freediving feels absolutely amazing and is deeper than the last one while still feeling amazing and having no setbacks or no limitations? You do it, it's fun because you have a bit of limitation and you finally manage to go past it. That's the reward. So don't see a dive that doesn't go as planned as a failure. You know, sometimes as you were planning to do a PB, doesn't go as planned, and then you feel down for the rest of the day, maybe freediving is not for me, and so on. Or you do the dive, and this time, on the other hand, you're king of the world for the rest of the day, yeah? So enjoy the ride of the high, but like really see any dive that doesn't go as planned as what do I learn from this? And then once you learn, you stop thinking about it. There is no more to learn from it. There is only frustration to be created. And tennis for this is a very, very good example. You need to play each point completely independently of the others if you really want to perform and play at your best. So you lost the former point, you analyze quickly, okay, I put the ball in the net. Two ways of reacting. We have a very French famous tennis player that each time like insults people, break his racket and so on. Is that going to help you win the next point? I'm not so sure. Maybe you have brand new racket now, but that's it. Or you can decide, okay, it was in the net, so obviously it was a bit too low. Next time I pull it a bit higher. This is going to help. And now I fully focus my attention on the next one. The same when you finish a dive, even if it was a good dive and you enjoy it, in the next dive your focus is all on the new dive. What happened before doesn't really matter. So don't have crazy expectation that you should perform all the time perfectly well. And even if it's the mind, the limitation, and a bit of stress, maybe consider that that's why you do freediving. Is because it's a little bit stressful when I add a couple of meters, and when I finally manage, it feels amazing. If you didn't have those butterflies, maybe it wouldn't be so addictive and so nice. So now, and I'm the perfect example of this, when I'm stressed because of a competition, sometimes I let the stress get the best of me, and suddenly I'm really not happy to be here. I'm really wondering why I'm here, and I don't want to dive, and I'm not having a fun moment. And with experience, now more and more, when I feel this little thrill, I even have a little self-talk about it, and where I welcome it, and I'm like, that's why you're here. Enjoy it. You've been doing amazing dives in the past, feeling like this. That's the goal. That's why you're doing it. That's why you train. So go for it. Yeah. So be kind to yourself and don't have crazy expectation. And even sometimes we have some periods where freediving is not at its best. We have cycles in life, in being in good shape or not, and it's completely normal. Also, you could consider that when you train, your overall performance, not necessarily your absolute depth, but your overall performance decreases. Example, but you can feel it that at the end of the session you don't dive as well as at the beginning of the session in terms of when you just had a couple of warm-up, in terms of equalization, in terms of legs, in terms of everything. It's easier than at the end of the session. So first, that should remove any frustration of not diving as good at the end of the session as you were diving at the beginning. It's normal. When you go for a run, after 2 hours of running, you don't run as well as when you had started only 15 minutes ago. And you can apply this to a cycle of training. So if you train hard during 7 days out of 8 in the deep week, it's normal that at the end of the deep week, you don't perform as well. You can still maybe increase your absolute depth. But if you were fully rested, this same absolute depth, you would get it even more easily. So don't get frustrated if you see your performance decreasing. The first reflex when we see that we don't perform, we train, and it's not working, is like, I need to train more. No, you probably need to rest. And for this, to know when to rest, what is going to be essential? To have a log. Yeah? The rest, you know, when we said resting is training, it's not just to be a bit lazy and justify the rest. Is if you do a training plan, you plan the rest in the training. So it's really part of your training. And even if you don't feel tired, you take the rest. Now, sometimes you might need more rest than what you had originally planned. And for this, yeah, your log is going to help you, but also two very good indicators. And we are back to what we were talking originally, confidence. Confidence, if you get tired, decreases. It's like completely linked. I can give you a personal example. In 2018, I did my first vertical blue. It went really great, and I took a business partner in my former shop. So for the first time, I had a bit of time since I opened this shop, to just train for 1.5 months for myself. And I went to Bali for this. And suddenly I was from a city environment where I couldn't do much to beautiful place where I could run. And then I had access to a swimming pool, which I hadn't in my shop at the time. So I decided to do some dynamics, some running, a lot of dry training, while doing a lot of deep dives. And since in my training I had planned a lot of rest, I was sleeping a lot, I had no work to do, nothing, so I didn't feel that tired. But after 10 days, 12 days of this relearn, I would arrive at the platform there to dive, and I would tell Julia from Apnea Bali, who had the platform, today let's remove a few meters because there are a bit of waves. Or today let's remove a few meters, there is a bit of current. Now, if I had been a bit more aware and maybe tracked my confidence, I would have noticed that 10 days ago, same waves, same current. I wouldn't even think about it. I would just do the dive and would be very confident about the dive. And suddenly, for the same condition, same thing, I wasn't sure anymore I could do the dive, so I would remove a few meters. And I kept going a bit because I didn't feel tired, but when it really hit me and I started feeling tired, it really took me 2 weeks of doing nothing to recover from it. So in the end, you see, I trained very well for 2 weeks, had to rest 2 weeks and train a little bit more for 2 weeks after, but it was not the best use of my time. So beware of overtraining in freediving. Sometimes you don't feel tired, but your nervous system is. So I would suggest to have in your week of training, if you're training a bit consistently, to have at least 1 day minimum where you don't hold your breath. That doesn't mean you cannot do any physical activity, but your nervous system needs sometimes to get used to, again, breathing all the time, you know. So this is a first indicator, confidence. You could have a column in your log, and every day you go diving, you see how you feel in terms of confidence from 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. And if you see it dropping a few days in a row, 2-3 days in a row, usually you just take a good day of rest, and the next day you even have the craving, you know. Other very good indicator, if you have a smartwatch, you already have your resting heart rate. If you do not, even a cheap oximeter that you buy 500 peso at the pharmacy, if you take your heart rate every morning when you wake up, roughly in the same condition, every evening when you go to bed, and you keep track, you're going to be surprised how consistent it is. If you see it increasing of a few beats, 1 to 3 beats, but over a couple of days already, probably you need a rest. If you have a smartwatch and you look at your resting heart rate, try to find in the history last time you partied, and check the next day your resting heart rate, and then after a couple of days, probably it goes back to normal. So this is, for me, the finest indicator you can have to detect the beginning of overtraining. I'm going to stop there because that would be a workshop on periodization of the training. Let's go back a little bit on building confidence. But first, it's good to have as inspiration a big dream, a big objective. So same, don't be shy if you are a lot into freediving. If any of you tell me that he wants to go at one point to 100 meters or plus, given the right amount of time and training, why not? And actually, you know, you have this say, if you tell about your dreams to someone and he's not laughing, you're not dreaming big enough. You know? Now, because we always say freediving is not about numbers, right? A little bit still. That's why we measure the rope, the distance. That's why we time the breath holds. So don't feel bad if you have a number in mind. That's what I mean, you know. And don't feel bad if you don't. It's your journey. But having a number in mind is good. Now, what it means is more don't obsess about this number. And joy is in the journey. Like really, it sounds cheesy all the time, but it's really this. So you have a big dream. That's what makes you wake up every morning to go do your training, and that's what makes you enjoy as well projecting yourself there. Now, if we look at everything that can limit your freediving, do you have any limiting factor that comes to mind?
My body, my ears, my lung capacity.
Yeah, so that could be health in a way.
Health,
Yeah. So this would be finding little by little the right thing to put in your ears so that you don't have ear infection, the right routine for your sinuses. So that could be one limiting factor.
Time to train.
Yes, but now in terms of like more like the freediving related factor that really limits you.
Your physiology, your build.
Yes, so that could be, in terms of physiology, we could see depth adaptation, for example. That could be even narcosis adaptation past a certain point. That could be your fitness. What else?
Your emotions.
Yes, so that could be your mind, in general.
CO2 tolerance.
Your CO2 tolerance. Maybe for some people, especially in static and dynamic, at one point could become your hypoxia. No one's working on equalization to try to go deeper at the moment, yeah? Equalization. For some people in dynamic this morning or in general, that could be the lactic acid.
Like flexibility.
Your flexibility, excellent. And also,
Equipment.
yeah, but this in a way can, like more or less, if you save and stuff, is easily fixable. But your technique as well. At one point, you can go to 50, 60 meter with terrible technique, going to 120 with horrible technique and coming back up, yeah. Or maybe you overcompensate with fitness, but yeah. So maybe there are some others and more individuals, but let's imagine you have them all. Yeah, you can put indicators on all of them, right? At which frequency do I have ear infection now? How congested am I on a regular basis? Depth adaptation, how deep can I go in FRC before I feel any pressure, for example? Fitness, how much I can lift, how fast I can run, and so on. Mind, that could be same. How well do I perform my mental preparation exercise? Or even for the mind, even the time you spend on it would be a good indicator of progression. CO2, when you do breath holds, when you do CO2 tables, like you can see a lot of different indicators. Hypoxia, same. Equalization, same. How well do I perform the dry exercise? How deep can I bring my mouth feel from the surface? Or all of this. Lactic, same. How many apnea squat can I do before my legs give up, for example? Flexibility, before I could do this, now I can go lower, and same for any position. Technique, how many kick before I free fall? How many cycle to reach 10 meters in no fins? Like you have a lot of indicators. So now, let's imagine, little mental game, we have all the limiting factors. We put indicators on every single one of them. And you progressed on every single one of them. Yeah? So now depth is just like, how can you not go deeper? Yeah? Depth is just a consequence of all of this. So your original goal, depth, or a number of depths, for example, just becomes a consequence of this. So that's what I mean by not obsessing on the number, like saying I want to go to 100 is doing nothing for you to get there. Now, knowing it, saying it, so like for motivation to dream big and yeah, but in the end, this is what is going to make the job. And again, that's why having a log and seeing that you did the job is going to help building the confidence, and in return is going to help you achieve your objectives. Yeah? Now, of course, we have all busy lives and limited time, so that's why there are also some workshops on periodization of the training so that you prioritize what you work on when to optimize a little bit your progression. But it was just to make a point that in the end, your depth or your progression in dynamic or static is just a consequence of this. And same, you don't see any soccer team playing only matches. They do drills all the time, and they sometimes do a match. So you could see your freediving training the same, you know. You don't have to try to increase the absolute depths all the time. You need to learn to see day-to-day success in those indicators. Okay, today I didn't go a single meter deeper, but I progressed a bit in terms of my equalization in FRC, or I progress in the sense that I could repeat the dive many more times without getting tired than last time. Like, see day-to-day success. This is also what is going to help you build your confidence. Don't judge yourself only in regards to absolute depths. And also keep in mind when a dive or even an objective doesn't go as planned, as a freediver, you're more than just the product of one dive. Yeah? You have plenty of other dives to come. And also as a person, you're so much more than just a freediver. So now, taking this for granted, not succeeding in all of your dives is not so bad, you know, it's part of the process. Okay. Now, maybe sometimes you prepare for an objective and you arrive there like, I don't know, a competition, or you were planning to do a PB that day and you trained for it. And sometimes, I don't know, either you hurt yourself before, you couldn't train as much as planned, you're not fully ready. And so how do we handle this? It seems simple, but it's just, would it be reasonable to keep the same objective as when you had a very good plan and you could do everything? No. So before we do, when I have a competition, for example, in 10 days or 2 weeks, something like this, I had planned some stuff. I did most of what I had planned, but like in the past few days, I had a couple of instructors sick in my shop. I had to teach a lot. I didn't do the last sessions I had to do. But I'm going to reevaluate my objectives according to this. As simple as this, you know, and it's not necessarily frustrating. It can be a bit in a way, but now I'm more thinking about ways to catch up later. But keeping the same objective would set me for failure, probably, or for a good learning experience. So I'm going to try to not have to learn it. I learned it in the past, this one a few times already. And yeah, when we were saying about making mistakes, sometimes making mistakes of appreciation, but it's valid making a mistake that could lead to a squeeze, that could lead to a blackout or being hypoxic. It's the same as when you don't complete the dive. You analyze why, and then you forget about it. Or you do your best to forget about it, or now you had the value out of it. There is no more value to get from it, only frustration or loss of confidence. And don't be kind to yourself. It's not a wild card to do whatever and take a lot of crazy risks, but it happens. You didn't do it on purpose. I hope so. So now it's just committing not to do the same thing again. And maybe in the future you will do it again. It took me like... And I'm still afraid of doing it sometimes. Like, you know, for example, me, when I go down and I have an ear block, it's always because there is a bit of mucus in front of it, because I do hands-free, so my equalization is so smooth usually. So when it stops, you know, sometimes people, they can do this, they finally manage to equalize, they keep going down. Me, if I do this, it works, but on the way up, systematically, 100% of time, I have a reverse block, because there is still a bit of mucus, and yeah. And on the way up, I cannot de-equalize my ears. I try though, and so yeah, I did it one time, and I was like, yeah, let's not do this again. And then it happened again while I was teaching. I was with a student. I didn't think twice about it. I kept going. Okay, next time I don't do it. And it took me like... To this date, I did it 4 or 5 times, but I'm not blaming myself. Oh, you're so stupid to do it. I didn't do it on purpose. I'm doing my best not to do it. So you will make mistakes. And sometimes they might lead to not very enjoyable consequences. Now, the idea is to make sure you analyze why and you do your best not to do it again. But no need to be too harsh with yourself either, or to be depressed about it. Yeah, and it's very important as well. That leads to my next point. Like one of the tools we use a lot to help boosting confidence, but other qualities, is self-talk. Yeah, we talk to ourselves. We do it in general in real life as well. Huh? Sometimes it's just from a command, or you can do it. But a lot of time is also. You're so dumb, you suck, yeah? We are not so kind with ourselves all the time, when we talk to ourselves. And this would be the first step to change your mindset, is first to catch a bit how are you talking to yourself. And it should always be positive. And this way, this time I mean positive in the sense we live in a world of rainbow and unicorn. Yeah? Be kind to yourself and encourage yourself. Now, it should be positive in a second way as well. Not just, okay, everything's good and I'm giving you encouragement. It's also in the formulation. You want to always talk to yourself about what you want to achieve, not about what you want to avoid. Example, if I tell you, don't think of a pink elephant, too late. Yeah? If I tell you, don't bend your knees, what is the image that pops in your mind is you bending your knees, even though the intention is to keep them straight. But if I tell you keep them straight, it's going to be way more powerful, because what is going to pop in your mind is you with your legs straight. So when you talk to yourself, you need to be very careful with this as well. But very careful, like mindful of it. It really makes a huge difference. So maybe for the wave 3 working on mouth feel, maybe it's going to sound familiar. We don't work on not swallowing the mouth feel. We work on keeping the mouth feel. We work on keeping the soft palate open, not on not closing it. Yeah? This makes a huge difference. But the first step is first awareness. So try to catch yourself. How am I talking to myself? And then if you catch yourself talking either in a negative way or in a negative formulation, just fix it. And then move on with your day. No big deal. But that's how, little by little, you can really change your mindset. And that's going to make a huge difference. So remember when I said it's a bit of a mind gym? Yeah, it's about consistency and commitment to changing the mindset little by little. Like yesterday, no, with some of the wave 3, we talked about early turn, for example. I used to be very frustrated about early turning. Or even when you see me in training, sometimes it's a bit unsettling for people because they feel like I don't really care, if I don't complete the dive. And the rare times where I don't go to the bottom come early, I'm as happy as when, maybe not deep inside, but I'm still smiling, happy that I did the dive and so on. And even if sometimes inside, no, I feel like everyone, angry, frustrated, disappointed. But, playing the part is also helping a lot. So it's not only mental, it's also physical. Your postures, your attitude, like your physical postures, impact a lot your mindset. Like already, if just here right now, try to be a bit straighter, the shoulders a bit like this, yeah? Yeah? Don't we feel all a little bit more confident now? Yeah? And same, try to do a big smile and to be pissed at someone, anyone. Yeah? It's not so easy. It's possible, huh? It's not necessarily a skill you want to work on, huh? But, so, like for example, me, same, my challenge when I compete, and you can see, for example, I rarely say my problem is, you don't have problems. You have challenges, you have things to work on, but problem, how is that a problem? You know, again, it would be a problem if it was only you and everyone else is succeeding all the time, 100% of the dive, then you can feel you have a problem. And so you don't have a problem. You have things to work on, a challenge. Me, my challenge is sometimes the mind and the stress. And one time I was talking to Alexei because he looks always so composed and with just a light smile, even just before he goes for his dive and when he's dressing and stuff. And one time I talked to him and I was like, how do you do not to be stressed? He said, I'm super stressed, Thibault. Sometimes, not all the time, but on some dives he's stressed like everyone else. And indeed, since then, I'm trying to commit when I arrive the morning of the competitions, my first competition, and for a long time, I would arrive, I would feel the stress, I would talk to no one, I would feel like I needed to create a real bubble around me with no interaction. And any interaction would be an excuse to get even more stressed, you know? But then I was doing this to myself, you know? So now I really make sure, and it's getting easier and easier as I practice it, but when I arrive in the morning, I act like it's a normal day. I say hello to everyone like I would say hello to everyone on a regular day, you know? It would be maybe even a bit rude because today is competition and I'm stressed, I don't say hello, you know? So I'm smiling, I'm giving advice like I would give on a regular day, even if inside I'm quite about my dive, you know? And that helps a lot. And you even have some meditation exercise where you take posture, what we call confidence posture. This one is one of them, this one of them. But just already, just a little bit, during your breathe up, smile. Smile. Makes a huge difference for the rest of the dive. During the dive, but if you have a nose clip and you're not using mouthfeel, you can smile. Now, if you use the mask or you're trying to work on your mouthfeel, maybe smiling is not the best idea. Your mask is going to leak. But imagine you're smiling. It works almost as good. Like you feel a bit tense during a dive, imagine you're smiling. Yeah? Try it and let me know. Also, to improve a little bit your confidence, but we tend, in general, to work only on our limitations and weaknesses, which makes sense. That's what is limiting us, so I'm going to work mostly on this. But then if you work only on this, since you're working on a limitation, you always feel limited. So you always have a little bit of frustration. So now it all depends. If you're very good at considering this a learning experience, maybe you don't need to do anything else. But if you feel sometimes a bit frustrated or down because always doing a bit the same thing and it's not working, work also on what you're good at. Yeah? I don't know, if you're good in static, do some static on the side as well, even if you're interested mostly in depth, just to feel you have a strong breath hold and you're good at this. It's going to give you a lot of confidence for the other dives as well. Especially static, for example, is like, if I can have a breath hold of 4 or 5 minutes, a 1 minute 30 dive, I'm sure I have it in me, you know. And also sometimes even your strengths can overcome your weaknesses. We said like, if you have bad technique, you better have a good fitness, for example. No, I'm not saying you shouldn't work on your technique, but in general, like example, Herbert Nietzsche, he set up like 15 years ago, something like this, a world record in monofin, 120 meters. At the time, it was still in the trend, like if you want to go deep, you need a material like fins or monofin, very, very stiff. And monofin had just been invented, so the technique was not yet super developed. So he goes down. Before, there is a little interview, and he says like, I'm expecting to have my legs very tired on the way up. And indeed, he goes down, and from 60 meters already, you see like the technique is terrible. It's like 90 degrees angle on the legs, and you feel his legs are fully burned, you know. But the guy is such a monster that he starts coming up arms only. Yeah, helping a bit with the monofin, and he completes the dive, arrives at the surface. I'm okay. Can I get my recovery drink, please? Blah, 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 blah. like nothing happened, you know, not even holding the line. So I'm not saying you shouldn't work on your technique. I'm just saying in some cases your strengths can overcome a little bit your weaknesses, or attenuate the impact of your weaknesses. But technique is a good transition for something else that I will conclude with this, and there is so much more about mental preparation. We'll have another workshop later in the week. In terms, technique illustrates this pretty well. There is something that was originally talked about for rock climbing, but it's very similar. It's called the 3 laws of imperfection. And you can see this a little bit to guide your training if you want to optimize a little bit your performance, if you're driven by progression, which you don't have to be. You can be driven more by fun. You don't have to optimize everything. It's your journey, once again. Now, still, if you want to progress a bit faster, first law of imperfection is that, very common, perfection doesn't exist. So you can work the amount of time you want on your training or on something, you will never be perfect. But it's a good thing as well, because second law of imperfection, you don't need to be perfect to progress. You just need to be a little bit less imperfect than last time. Yeah? Makes sense? Third law, and this one is when you want to progress a little bit faster, don't tolerate any gross imperfections. When I say gross imperfection, if you have terrible technique, for example, what's the point of trying to keep increasing the depth all the time? You're going to have to deal with this at some point, and the earlier the better if you think in terms of progression, if you see the bigger picture. Yeah? So if you see a gross imperfection, whichever it is, don't try to keep progressing in terms of absolute depth. Fix the gross imperfection first and then keep going. Now, with a balance to find, keep in mind the first law of imperfection. You don't need to fix it until it's absolutely, absolutely perfect. It cannot be. But that it's acceptable, at least for the depths you're going to, in a way, you know? And so if you see gross imperfection, don't tolerate them. Yeah? Also, to illustrate this, for example, trashing up a bit a dive, pushing at the end just to say, I did the dive this way, at least I did it one time, and now I'm just going to repeat it and do it nicely, might not be the most efficient way to go. Before we thought that, okay, after 20 years old, and then it was 25 years old, your brain stopped developing and it's over in a way. But you are still, first, neuroplasticity now showed that it's not really the case. We keep creating neurons, but we also, most importantly, keep creating connections between the neurons during our whole life. Each time we expose ourselves to a new situation, to a new skill. And that's the thing. You want the connection in your brain that you create associated with the dive and with the depth to be the right connection, to be the connection of a nice, smooth, easy, nice technically dive. Not a dive that you trashed up, because then in your brain it's going to be associated to this. This depth is going to be associated to this feeling of having to push a little bit. So again, better to fix the gross imperfection, the thing that really stops you or slow your progression, and then enjoy the progression. Remember, your progression in absolute depth is just the consequence of all of this. Yeah. So now I would say make a nice training plan that seems balanced to you, have some instructors reviewing it, or take a coach, that's a solution as well, so that you have at least a training plan that you trust. You know, if you believe in what you're doing and that you are actually doing it and following it, and for this you keep it in your log, then it's going to be like really a smooth ride in terms of progression and of staying confident. Yeah? And last little recommendation, if you see your confidence going down, you just need a bit of rest in general. Yeah? Or if you're very rested and your confidence is going down, maybe it's because the way you're training, you expose yourself maybe to too many limitations. Maybe it's time to, well, sometimes the rare times, it happens to me a bit more those past 2-3 years, where some days I'm like, oh, I don't want to dive. The first 7-8 years I was freediving, never happened a single time to me. I used to say my motivation is bottomless. Now sometimes I'm like, and when I see I have this little loss of motivation, it goes usually also with the confidence. Either I just rest and even though you would ask me any day, do you want to do a snorkeling session or line diving? I would go for the line diving. It's my thing. I love it. But sometimes I just go, I rest and I go do a bit of snorkeling. I reconnect a bit with what made me want to do freediving originally. I remember that it's not all about progression and that it's my journey and that it's okay. I can just progress at the rhythm I want and nothing is forcing me to do freediving. No one is forcing you to do freediving. It's a privilege. It's super cool. So even if it's to reach an objective, and even if you reach it one day, if you spend 5 years training like hell, not enjoying it, to finally get a medal, trust me, the medal, you're going to be happy a little while, and maybe for a while you're going to put this everywhere on social media, you're going to get your dopamine dose and stuff, but it's still not going to last that long, and you still spend like 5 years miserable instead. So it's really the training that you need to enjoy. So same, if you put too much pressure on yourself, try to increase too much, it's not going to be enjoyable anymore. You're going to lose sight of why you're doing freediving. We are doing freediving to have fun. And me, for example, I know that my progression is not necessarily optimal in the past years because I'm very well aware of it. I dive too much for my own good. Like if I wanted to really progress on those depths, I probably would need to spend a bit less time at those depths. And so, but I love it so much, you know? And it's okay, I'm fine with this. Now, if it were creating a frustration that I'm not yet at 130 where I could be or whatever, then I would change and I would say, okay, now I dedicate to doing this. So you just need to be in accordance with your own journey. After your objective, they are yours, you know, and who are other people to judge? So just make sure you enjoy. If you see the bigger picture, I'm not saying this just to be cheesy and so that you have the best experience in the water. I really believe, I'm convinced in general, that's the condition for performance. It's a sport of adaptation, both mind and physical. Adaptation takes time and takes a lot of dedication and commitment. So if you don't enjoy what you're doing, how are you going to go diving enough and training enough to reach that kind of objectives? So enjoying is not just to be cheesy. I really believe it's the best way to perform and to go very far in freediving, but also in other sports. And you see top athletes that talk a little bit about their mental preparation, like Carl Lewis or others. That's exactly what they tell you. I used to think it was just cheesy and to sell books for years until I really felt it myself, and yeah, I vouch for it. Now you don't have to trust me, but it's really working. Okay? I'm sorry, we are going to have to stop here. We could talk for hours about this. I hope you enjoyed, and now we are going to have another one. Thank you.